I think we're live. Check 1, 2, 3. Giles, are you there? No, Giles is not
Yeah,
there.
I'm here. Oh, did you put the follow audio off?
Did I cut the follow audio off? Yes. Yes, I did. Yep, so I've got your audio no
I
matter
can
where
mute
you are.
myself here.
Yeah, and and I can mute you too, but I don't want to mute you. I like you. You're a nice guy.
Excellent.
All right, folks, we're a little late getting started today, and for a variety of reasons. Not the least of which was I forgot to update Giles's graphic below him. He was still R.J. Murdoch up until a few minutes ago, and I was concerned because also my Dropbox wasn't working. So all my efforts to update that graphic on another PC and make it available here finally had to fall back to what we used to call, Giles, did you ever call it sneaker net? Where you take a little floppy disk and you run it down the hall by hand to another machine? All right.
I was very glad when local area networks came along.
Yes.
Saved a lot of that.
Yes, yes. SneakerNet was overrated. All right, let's see who we've got here today. Prashana, Tommy, Ovinas, Ray, Bill, John, Dan is PI Engineering, Dave, John, Step Back in Time is Giles, Darren, the wife, yay, Martin, SU fan, the other Martin, guest 422, Peter, Merle, Paul, Martin, Rudy, Mike, Boris, Kenny, Dave, guest 934. Now, we want to remember that those of you that are going by guest number, that we're anticipating that the number is significant. So 934 may require a little bit of explanation. 422 we got, but 934 is a new one. Let's see, Jan, Timothy, Scott, Kent, and Rich. All right, welcome. Glad to have all of you and see you here. Let's do one more thing, shall we? And I want to bring up really quickly the YouTube window so that I can just get a monitoring on how many folks are watching us in YouTube, because a lot of times people will watch in YouTube not realizing that they can come to Eastern Shore Broadcasting and catch the whole thing, including the chat. And I think sometimes the chat's the best part of the show. Oh, goodness. So let's see what we can see here under live streaming. And we don't want to have anything going there. There we go. And so, all right, so now I can see the numbers. So we've got 43 right now in live chat. I mean, in YouTube. And that's a concern for me because you 43, only 36 of you are watching at easternshorebroadcasting.com. That means the other 7 of you are just on YouTube, which is fine. But you miss out on the chat. Let me show you what the chat looks like so that you've just got an idea. This is the chat. This is what's going on with the chat. And it's not logged in right now, so it doesn't show all the folks that are on the right side in that right-hand border. But this is where the action is, really. That's the fun part. Okay, so we got the chat up, and we want to welcome folks from the chat, from YouTube to the chat, and that goes for Facebook too. If you're watching us on Facebook, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com where you can engage with everybody else. We're not going to be monitoring the Facebook chat. So if you chat there, it may be a lonely experience. Okay, let's see. So we are suffering from some intermittent internet today. On the upstream, my downstream is killer. Downstream is like 93 to 100 megs, but the upstream will vary from 30 all the way down to 5. So we're trying to stay below that 5. And Giles and I have been playing today, trying to keep our back and forth to the point where it's pretty visible on both of our ends, but at the same time, doesn't eat up all the bandwidth, so that we've got some left over for you. All right. And again, welcome to you watching on YouTube, watching on Facebook. Come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com, click the Watch Live button, and that way you get the chat too. Let's see who's just joined us. A couple folks just popped in. Troy is here. Welcome, Troy. Glad to have you. Dave is here. Looking down the list. Alan, don't know that we recognized you first time around. Jerome is here. Hey, Jerome. Glad to have you. James is here. James is coming to us from Australia, where it's like 5 in the morning. So hooray for James. Andreas is here. Welcome. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. And if I missed you, I'm sorry. Please introduce yourself in the chat, and folks will welcome you, because these are pretty good folks here for the most part. The troublemaker, the troublemaker we've got over here. So we're keeping him out of the chat a little bit, and it's nice to have the wife here today too. It's always a treat when we have a lady in the audience. Okay, so oh, and Cinco's here. Welcome, glad to see you. Anybody else that I might have missed that just popped in? Okay, well. One last time, if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com and click Watch Live, and then you can see the chat. That's the chat that we'll be monitoring, we'll be talking about, and we're delighted to have you join with. And we're delighted to have Giles with us. This is not the show. This is still the pre-show. So let's see. Giles, are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
As ready as he'll ever be, he says. Okay, he has his own form. Go ahead.
I was going to say, is my audio okay to you?
I think your audio is great. What do you guys think?
Sorry,
You think
to ask earlier.
You think his audio is okay? Did anybody gauge what the latency is today from live? I can put a clock back up for just a second.
I saw about 14 seconds in the chat earlier on.
Okay.
Apparently I'm a bit low.
Well, that's good, because we've got some headroom. We can bring you up. Okay. Some louder. It's lower than Tom's. Okay. All right. Well, I've popped you up. So, folks, if you find this is not loud enough, just shoot me a little note, and we'll do it. 7 a.m. in Australia.
Okay. Well, let's
14 seconds
okay.
in Texas. 17 seconds in L.A. You know, Giles, what I've noticed is that you and I can talk over each other. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's great.
That means that this is full duplex audio.
It is a big deal.
Yes, we don't duck. You know how you get ducking where one audio cuts out the other audio? This is full duplex audio. Also some dinging sounds. Well, I don't know about the dinging sounds.
That's from me, I'm afraid.
Aha, okay. All right. Well, Giles is dinging.
I got the bell on the chat room.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
I'll try and turn it down a bit.
Okay. Yeah, you know, the chat guys don't need to have a lot of audio themselves. All right. Well, James, we're glad you're here.
Trouble is, I don't look at it.
Now, if you
There
turn
go,
them
I've turned
down.
them down to 50%. So
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Well, we are going to mute Giles, and we're going to go to the pre-show. And we'll get going. Now, in the post-show, we will tell you all about the setup today. And we might have a little bit of time to talk about that during the show, but that's going to mostly be a post-show stuff, because I don't want to steal Giles's thunder, because he and I have been planning and plotting on this show for a while. So let's go into pre-show mode, and here we go. Hello and welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, and you have come to Streaming Idiots. I'm hoping you came here on purpose because we got a really good show today. Really excited about my guest. Also excited about news in the world. Golly gee, my world is about this big. Well, I mean, it's bigger than that, but my little sliver of the world, the world that I'm kind of monitoring, a lot of it has to do with live streaming, i.e. Streaming Idiots, of course. And in the live streaming world, I've been really excited by a new feature that vMix brought out this week. Today's Wednesday, so they brought it out yesterday, early in the morning, like 3 a.m. Eastern Time. And the new feature allows you to actually bring a guest directly into vMix without using an intermediary like Skype or Zoom or some sort of, video conferencing software. So this is a big deal, folks. This is a huge deal. And we're going to have kind of a review of our setup of today's show. We're going to have that in the post show. So if you're watching live, you want to make a note to hang around for the post show. We'll have refreshments. Whoever is last to the show today brings refreshments. So we'll have refreshments in the post show. My guest today, and we'll bring him in just a second, but is Giles Warham with Step Back in Time TV. Giles has been a long time live streamer in a lot of different ways, and we're going to get him to tell his story and some of the interesting things that have happened to him in that. But he and I met, I guess, about a year or two ago, online, of course, and have gotten to be, online friends, as it were. And from him watching this show, he decided to start his own show, This and That, which we'll get him to talk about in just a minute too. But before we do any of that, I want to give a welcome to the folks that the Streaming Idiots show is also paralleled by a Streaming Idiots Facebook group. So if you feel like you're missing out on Streaming Idiots and you need a little pinch of that during the course of the week, you can pop on over to Facebook. I think we've got a URL here somewhere. Let's see if we can pop that up. Yeah, there we go. Facebook.com/groups/Streaming Idiots. And it's a really fun group. We've had a lot of folks join just in the last week. We've been talking about the new vMix feature, and I want to give a welcome to the folks that have just joined. JP Urbacella, David McDonald, Eric Jans, Mike Ramirez, Paul Cox, Mandarith Local, Marion Shaney, Isaiah Santiago, Sabia Lubuku, Ken Siji, Paul Cox, Morthy, David Andrew, Kel Davis, Jesse Mack, Stephen Haywood, Samantha Winslow, Scott Latimer, George Bean, Richard Heer, Kaylee Catt, Will Tu, Gerald Sheen, Kenny Duke, Kenny Lee, Jeff Burkhart, Brandon Sinclair, that's my son, Israel Luna, Barrett Sinclair, that's my other son, Colt Sinclair, that's my brother. This is cool. Daniel Pennell, Mark Goldby, Brad Llewellyn, Edwin Chan, Philip Wingham, Larry Kilpatrick, Bruce Holt, Jamie Richards, Sasha Ludwig, Richard Shoemaker, Todd Mays, Gene Dandy Simeon, Reginald Richardson, and Harry Akers. Welcome to the Streaming Idiots Facebook group, and welcome to Streaming Idiots. If you are saying, "Hey, I wish I were a part of that Facebook group," it's what they call a closed group. I mean, you have to ask to be accepted, because we don't want just any normal riffraff. We only want the best riffraff in our group. So come on over. We're hoping we might pick up a couple of members today, and John will get you approved right away, and you can join in on the conversation. We've been having some great discussions about the new vMix features that was introduced, and about what changes that we would like to see in that feature now that it's here. It's kind of like, we wait and we want this great new feature, and then when it gets here, it's kind of like, oh, well, can I put a cherry on top and a little bit of ice cream on the side? And yeah, whatever it is we want, we always want more. So enough of that. Oh, and I would say, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, if you're watching us on Facebook right now, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com, click the Watch Live button, and you'll get the benefit of the chat. We've got, I don't know, 4 or 5 dozen folks in chat right now, and they're having a great time, mostly poking fun at me, it looks like. But that's okay. We don't want you to feel like you're missing out on what's going on. So come on over, easternshorebroadcasting.com, click the Watch Live button, and then scroll down the page. You'll see the chat, and you can pop out the chat or you can pop out the YouTube video either way. And by the way, two great things about using YouTube, and we've been doing this long-term experiment with YouTube. One is YouTube, you can adjust the bandwidth. Uh-oh, we need to turn off our phone. You can adjust the bandwidth to suit your bandwidth. So you can you can go, if you've got the ability to go all the way up to 720p, you can do it. If you're watching on your phone and 144 is all you can take because you don't want to eat up all your data, then by all means you can do that too. So do that. And the other thing is you can back it up. It's got DVR function. So you can actually go backwards if you missed out on something and pick it back up. It puts you out of sync a little bit with the chat room. Let's turn this thing down for sure. It puts you out of sync with the chat room, but that's okay. And if you're watching us after the fact, you can speed up this show and make it go ×2 or ×1.5, or you can slow it down. I don't know that you'd want to slow it down, but anyway. Okay, got all the preliminaries out of the way. Delighted to have you. If you're, again, I'm watching the numbers popping up in YouTube. If you're just joining us, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com and take advantage of the chat room. That's the beauty of going there. Click the Watch Live button and you'll find it. We've got a bunch of folks in chat. It looks like about another 20 or 25 watching on YouTube. So we would welcome you to come to easternshorebroadcasting.com and click live. After the show today, we're going to talk a little bit more about the new vMix feature, so stick around for that. But with no more ado, sorry it's taken me so long for the introductions, but I am delighted to have with me, if I can remember what I did with him. Oh yeah, here he is. My special guest today, coming all the way from England via I guess via the internet would be the best way to put it, and via vMix Call, the new feature in vMix, Giles Warham. Giles, welcome to the show.
Good evening, Tom from the UK, and it is both an honour and a privilege to be here with you this evening.
Isn't he the sweetest guy? I'll tell you what. You are so full of it. Giles and I we don't go way back, but we go back pretty far. And so it was natural to invite him on the show. And so Giles, I want to start out with, kind of that first question to go all the way back and tell me, how in the world did you get into live streaming? I mean, where did live streaming come from?
I guess I dabbled with it a bit back in the...
Oh, we've lost Giles. He's frozen. Did we lose him altogether? Well, Giles, if you can hear me, go ahead and check your connection speed. Looks like we're not sending or receiving anything with him right now. We've lost him entirely. Oh my. Giles and I are using the vMix Call feature, which is a beta. I will tell you, it is a beta. And we'll just wait for him to come back. There are 2 parts to this beta that are really cool. One is the ability to send somebody, a prospective guest, a link to a website. Actually, the website's called vmixcall.com. And when you get to vMix Call, and you can check this while we're talking right now, when you get to vmixcall.com, it'll have a very simple place where you can enter your name and where you can enter your password. And the password is generated by the vMix program on the host computer. So if you're the guest, you'll get a link to a website, you'll get a password. You put it in your Chrome browser or your Firefox browser, and then you'll get asked, can Firefox or Chrome have permission to use your camera and microphone? You say yes, and then pow, you're in. And so it really is cool. Now, Giles is still not doing anything here with us. He's not sending or receiving. We'll give him another chance to come back. Not sure what's happened here, but that is the joy of using this beta is not even 24 hours old. So the other way that we are connecting, and let me show you my desktop here so that you can have an idea. Let me get this set up here real quick and just do a desktop capture. We'll do it on this one right here. And of course it's going to go to infinity in the top right hand corner. But with the desktop capture, I can show you, or at least I can try to show you, some of what's going on right here. You can see over here on the left hand side where Giles is frozen. That is the input that we're using for his call. And I went to add input, video call, and then here on the video call menu, I have two choices. I can host a call or I can connect to a call. And what Giles is doing is he's using his vMix to connect to call on his end. Okay. Giles says in the chat room his internet went down just as we got handed over to him. So hopefully he'll get it back up. Maybe he can reset his router, and we'll keep on with this for just a second. So Giles is doing the connect to call. I've sent him the password. He puts his name in. He selects his video source, which in this case is going to be his output or the external in his vMix. And then he selects his video bandwidth, that is the speed that he wants to send me. And it can be, oh, looks like he's back. Looks like he's back. We'll cover some more of that later. Giles, are you with us? Now, earlier when we had a little bit of a disconnect, I had to disconnect. We had some audio anomalies that popped up, and it was really funny because the audio would come in as chipmunks, and it was all speeded up as the audio. I guess the audio was trying to catch up to the video. So, Giles, have you got audio at this point?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, all right. Woo! Woo! It's like living in the...
That was not vMix's fault.
That was not vMix's fault.
It was nothing to do with vMix.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the most awful thing that could happen, isn't it? My internet went down just as you handed it over to me. It just went... So apologies for that. Blame
Not a
BT.
problem. Not a problem. Not a problem. We were just about to, you talk about a pregnant pause. You've kept us in suspense all this time to hear how in the world somebody out there doesn't want you to tell how you discovered live streaming, your first experience with that.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much you heard of what I said. I did keep going, but yeah.
Not a word.
I messed about with it a bit. Oh, right, okay. I did mess around with it a bit towards the end of the 1990s with the Real Media server streaming 176 by 144 over telephone line, just a normal dial-up modem, and later on ISDN. And then I didn't really look at it for ages. It was not something that I thought was going anywhere at that time because there wasn't bandwidth available really to do it well, or certainly not for me. The likes of the BBC and Channel 4 over here were experimenting with it, and there were live streams that you could watch, and that was quite interesting, but the novelty wore off pretty quickly. And really I was into making little videos myself as a sort of amateur thing, sort of semi-professional type of setup, I guess. And I started with one camera, which was fine because you could easily take that home and start editing it. But bearing in mind this is the sort of mid to late 1990s, editing was pretty painful on a 450 megahertz Pentium 1 processor. It really was horrible. So I never got any more adventurous than that. But as the editing systems got more powerful, I started experimenting with doing multiple camera angles, And what we were doing was shooting on several cameras with the tapes in the cameras, and you get a clapperboard and get them all synced up. You can bring it home, and you could make a multi-camera angle video, and that was all good fun. But it was very, very, very slow. And when we started to look at perhaps doing it on a more regular basis, we had to find a quicker way to start producing these videos. So that's when I started looking for a multi-track recorder or a switcher, or perhaps even using a hardware switcher and recording it onto a machine. And we came across the Studio Tech guys who had the TriCaster, and I started looking very deeply into the TriCasters, and got very, very close to buying one when I came across you. And you were talking about this wonderful product called vMix. So that kind of brings you up to where we are now. But I didn't buy it to do live streaming. I just wanted it to record so that we could then do a little bit of post-production, and it would just speed up the whole process rather than having to cut everything together in the end, you know.
Huh. So you went from Studio Tech to Streaming Idiots. Boy, what what a regression.
Well, you know, the information's much the same, and it's presented in a fun way. I said to you before, I probably watch more of Streaming Idiots on the television than I watch of regular television programs. I'm not a great TV watcher, but I always come and watch your show because it's entertaining and you learn stuff and it's brilliant. Studio Tech was as well. They're just different formats, but they're great shows, and we really appreciate what you do.
Well, thank you. What happened to Studio Tech? They sort of disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know really what happened to them. I went looking the other day to see if there was any new stuff there, and they just seemed to suddenly stop.
Huh. Go figure. Okay. All right. So you discovered us, and you discovered vMix. I mean, that's really the big part of the story, is the vMix versus TriCaster thing. I mean, you were fixing to write a check. I don't know how many euros that would be for a TriCaster, but it's a lot of dollars.
It was about £7,000 for the TriCaster Mini, which was the cheapest one.
Pounds, sorry. Whoops.
Yeah.
Forgot about Brexit. Yeah.
No, well, I don't know what, I'm just trying to work out what that would be in euros. It's probably about 10,000 euros, I would guess, just off the top of my head. It's a lot of money, isn't it?
Yes.
And compare the Pro version of vMix is only $1,200. This is about £1,000, isn't it? Or maybe just under £1,000 here. Mm-hmm. Plus the VAT, of course. Yeah, and I already had a machine that was powerful. I didn't need to buy another. You know, I didn't want to spend money on another powerful computer just because I had to have their hardware. Right. So vMix for me was great because I thought, well, I've already got my machine. All I need is the software to go on it. And we did the 60-day free trial like everybody does, and just never look back. It's just so good.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, you know, I was just thinking about it. If I had a TriCaster, I don't know that I can. Can I send and receive email on my TriCaster? I mean,
I think probably not, because you would break the warranty, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's right. It's not a multi-function machine. Not that you would want your streaming PC to be multi-function, because I do kind of counsel against that. I think of it like it's a racing car. Over here, NASCAR is real big, cars that go around in a circle in a race, and they're just for speed. I mean, you know, they don't have anything that doesn't make them faster or safer. You know, no air conditioning, no leather seats, all that kinds of thing. And that's the way I think of a streaming PC should be, just like that. Stripped down just for speed and power. Tell me about your PC. What are you using for your PC now to run vMix?
Okay, the machine I'm currently running was a a custom build from a company called Novatech in this country, and it's an X99 motherboard. The processor is an 8-core. I don't know what the number is, but it runs at about sort of was it 3.5 gigs to 4 gigs. I can get 4.4 gigs out of it quite happily. I don't run it that fast. vMix just doesn't need it, so I just run it at 3.5. There's a GTX 980 NVIDIA graphics card in there, which doesn't have any trouble at all. I'm running, how many inputs are we on today? 76, I think it was. Got 76 inputs going now, and it's actually just, what are we going, 9 milliseconds render time. CPU 9-10%. It's just stunning, and that's down to the quality of the software. This is Martin Sinclair's fantastic coding. It is just stunningly good. You can't, every time I look at it, you can't believe how much it's doing and how well it's doing it. It's just fantastic.
It is stunningly good. It is amazing. And he sells it all the time for 50% of what its value is, I think. Yeah.
That's probably true, but I'm glad he does sell it for the price he does, because I don't think I would have gone anywhere near it otherwise. It needs to be the price it is. It, you know, it's very accessible, the price it is at the moment, isn't it?
It is.
And it costs a lot of money doing anything like this. You quickly want more bits of hardware to plug in, so you can plug more cameras in, and you might want to upgrade your hard drive or whatever, or SSD drives, and you want more monitors, and you know, it quickly runs away with a lot of money. So I think the pricing is just spot on, and I gather they're doing very happily out of it. So I think they're happy as well, aren't they?
I think they are. I think they are. So you moved from Mark and Vance over to me, and then you came up with this idea. You know, maybe I need to start my own show because these other shows are so horrible. Tell me about your show. Where did the idea for that come up?
No, the other shows are very professionally put together and very well done and very well produced. Ours is not, deliberately. It kind of happened that I was talking with Mo, who's in your chat room here, and I wanted, because I'd got this ability to be able to stream from vMix, I thought, well, let's have a go. I just purely out of curiosity, really. And I managed to persuade Mel to come and talk to me on a Monday, and we just chatted on, we were using Skype and then Zoom, and I recorded his whole, we didn't actually live broadcast the first 4 or 5, but we were chatting away about things, couldn't decide on a subject for the programme, and Mel just said to me one night, you know, we ought to put this stuff up live, because there will be people out there who are possibly interested in what we're talking about. And we were just talking about the ins and outs of vMix. We were just getting used to how it works and what you could do with it, and experimenting and playing. And he convinced me to do it. So the first couple were just recordings, and then we bit the bullet one week and said, let's do it live. And
you
was
went
the most
live.
nerve-wracking experience of my life.
How exciting. How exciting.
It is. It's good fun. I enjoy it now. I didn't enjoy it to start with.
No, right.
You make it look easy. I've said this a lot of times. You make it look easy, but it really isn't easy to press buttons and try and present something when you're, particularly if you're not in practice. You've done it for a good number of years now.
That's
and
right.
you pull it off. It's brilliant.
That's right. Like anything else, muscle memory, thinking in that same sequence, not having, when there's a problem, which I have problems all the time, it's another problem. Oh, well. But the first time it happened, it's like, oh, my goodness, panic. Oh, what am I going to do? I got to get this fixed right now. A lot of pressure and tension and anxiety. And yeah, I remember those days. Boy, I don't miss them at all. I like today's days better. But I'll tell you, when I started, the software was a lot different than it is today. And we're only talking, July of 2012. So we're talking, not even 5 years ago, that I started this series of shows, and the software was very primitive comparatively. We couldn't even stream HD because the software wouldn't run on a decent computer. You had to have a mammoth beast to get anywhere close to HD with the software in those days. Anybody in the chat room remember what software we were using in our first shows? So it's you and Merle, and then...
Well, very quickly we had John join us and George Price. And in fact, if you look back in our archives, the first, it wasn't really a program, it was just we were doing an experiment. We decided that it was possible to get Merle sitting at a desk next to me, even though he's 6,000 miles away. So we were just playing with the green screen functionality. So there was me with Merle to my left, and we had George and John on the big screen in this virtual set. Because again, still experimenting, just trying to find out what you could do. And that was kind of probably really our first program. It wasn't live, but that was the one. I think you showed it on here, and I think that was probably the catalyst, really, to sort of say, right, look, come on, let's do this. We can have a bit of fun with this and enjoy it.
Well, it is a lot of fun. There's no doubt about it. It's for geeks that don't have anything else to do, this can be a ton of fun. And as you found out, I mean, you've done some great things with it. Is that you've brought a community of people together to co-produce the show, and you guys you're having fun, you're learning stuff, you're teaching stuff. I mean, it's a win-win-win all the way across the board. I'm so impressed. Tell me when the show is and how we can watch.
Okay, it's on Mondays rather, at 8 p.m. UK time, which is 3 p.m. Eastern time. And we do it every Monday. We haven't missed one since we started. Even when I'm not here, John did the show last week. Thank you, John, as well. I've not really had a chance to thank you properly for that.
And
that was great.
www.
It's stepbackintime.tv, all as one word. And you'll find us. Oh yeah, it's down there. Look. So yes, and if you show our full screen, it's actually on my little bug in the top corner there as well. Actually, it's that way, isn't it? Anyway, no, I always get that wrong. There it is. It's there. Stepbackintime.tv. So just a little bit of background on that. We're a community interest company, not for profit, and basically we set it up to record people's memories and to record programs about old stuff, trying to preserve some of history in a video format that's accessible to everybody all around the world. And we're still just getting going, really. We're getting into this live streaming now, and that's sort of held us up a bit, but we're developing it, and it's starting to things are starting to happen.
Now you're thinking about a new show. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we got 2 or 3 ideas on the back burner actually.
Oh,
but,
okay.
One of them's our Land Rover show.
Yes, yes.
we got a Land Rover show coming together. We actually started it 2 or 3 years ago, called Land Roveritis, which is a disease. Land Rover collecting becomes a bit of a disease, so that's where it's got the title from. So we put a pilot episode out, which received kind comments. So we thought, well, we'll record another one. But that show is an example of post-production taking too long, and the second one we actually made with vMix, or partly made it with vMix. And we're now looking at bringing it to the internet as a live show where the audience can take part, rather like you do here and like we do on TNT.
Yeah.
So it's got a totally different dynamic when it's live, and people can interact and ask questions, and So it should be interesting. We've no idea what's going to happen when we actually do it because it's going to depend somewhat on who watches it. But we'll see. So watch this space for that one.
That is so cool. That is so cool. I can't wait to see it. Now, you also recently had a run-in with the law, what we refer to down in Alabama as the popo, but it wasn't really the police. It was just it was sort of the internet police. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think one of the things most people run into at some point when they start live streaming or even just putting videos up on YouTube is the potential for copyright. And you did a show a couple of weeks back
Right.
talking all about that. And
Right.
YouTube has a very aggressive system for automatically trying to detect if you've got copyright material in your program. And I think that's a good thing. Nobody
Right.
wants to break the law deliberately. It happens, doesn't it? You know,
Except the bad
we,
guys, yeah.
no comment. But so we put up a show one week, and I had a backdrop behind me, which I downloaded from one of these sites that you can get pictures and backdrops from, where they're copyright free. They're released under the Creative Commons license on this particular site. But they do say in their terms and conditions, if you read it very carefully, that because it's user-provided content, they can't be held responsible if somebody does happen to put something up that's copyright. So you download this stuff and use it really entirely at your own risk. And I fell foul of that. I downloaded something which I still to this day believe is genuinely a free thing that's available for anybody to use. So I think the guy who's uploaded it actually genuinely did create it. But the combination of me sitting in front of that background, holding an XLR cable, created a flag for
Darn
copyright.
XLR cables.
And I absolutely. So I protested, as you can, on YouTube and said, well, I've got the rights to use this, but the company that whose copyright it supposedly was upheld the complaint. And when that happens, you can no longer live stream on your channel. They don't close your channel down, but they will stop you live streaming for 3 months. And that's a bit of a pain.
Yeah, I've gotten dinged a couple of times, but in fact, what they simply said was I couldn't monetize the content because I was using supposedly somebody else's copyrighted content. But they kept the stuff up.
Yeah, well, that was the option we had. And I could have left it that way.
Okay.
But I thought, well, no, I'm not going to let somebody else benefit from something that I've created. I've created it in good faith. It's entirely my work plus this backdrop. What I should have done was to take the video down and upload a new one with the offending parts removed, and that is what I will do in the future. It's not actually worth trying to fight these claims. Just take the video down, sort it out, put a new one up.
Right.
Unfortunately, you lose your view counts, and that was why I didn't want to do that. But it's the easiest way around the problem.
Yeah, I hear you about the viewer counts. That can be a little addicting to watch that little ticker go up and up and up and up and up. And, in reality, somebody can go on and look at one of your videos or one of my videos for 12 seconds, and they become a viewer. And I think, oh my gosh, I had a view. That's how wonderful. Yeah, 12 seconds worth because they said, oh, this show is terrible. Well, we'll go find something interesting. We'll go over and watch this and that. We'll go watch this and that because that'll be a good show to watch. Well, it sounds like you're getting just a great deal of wonderful experience and making some. I mean, you've met Martin, Martin S, as he's better known in circles, and you and Martin S are kinned countrymen. I mean, you're in the same country, but you didn't know each other. And you've met John, who is a Swede living in Denmark, and of course, your paths hadn't crossed with him naturally. And he's a Dane in Sweden. Oh well, I had a 50-50 shot of getting that one right. Well, I'll get this one right.
Yeah.
And you met Merle, who's living in Indiana, and George, who's living in Indiana, and people that you never ever would have connected with before. I mean, the power of the internet,
Totally.
yes,
Okay.
but also this common interest that allows us to share audio and video. Astounding.
I think that's the thing. The thing about TNT, I know, I'd just like to say, we actually all met in your chat room. This is the power of what you do.
Cool.
And once we started doing it, other people have come in as a result of watching our program. It has the same kind of dynamic in that way, I guess. What we've sort of, TNT's kind of evolved into a bit of a platform where if you've never done any live streaming before, it's actually quite a good place to come to, because you can come on it and just say a few words, and it gives you an opportunity to sort of be in front of the camera and get used to being live if you've never done it before. And that's really what we were doing ourselves to start with. And it's a place to experiment. It's a place to learn how to do things. And if it all goes belly up, then there's somebody there to kind of save the stream and keep it going until you recover. So I would encourage anybody who's interested in having a go at sort of presenting and producing a show like you do, to come on and just be a guest and actually have a go. You can come on and present something and produce it yourself as part of the show. And it's an ideal way just to sort of test the water a bit. It's not quite so daunting as perhaps going live on the air from nothing, And also there's people watching, so you get a bit of a chance for people to actually see what you're doing, which might help to get going.
All right, let me interrupt for just
come
a
and
second.
join in.
Because what Giles has just done is he has invited you to come be on his show as a co-host and to explore this whole brave new world. It's almost like shortwave radio, but with audio and video. And suddenly all these people that are positioned literally all over the world can be connected together, and through his show you can practice these skills. You can certainly learn about them. And as a result, I think we're getting some friendships built between people that never ever would have even known each other existed. It just checks off everything all the way down as a positive experience. So if you're thinking about getting together a show, you may want to test the waters a little bit and shoot Giles an email. Or Giles, how can folks contact you? What's a good, safe way to do that?
The easiest way actually to get hold of us is through our own chat room, which is on stepbackintime.tv.
Okay.
And talk to us live on the show, or you can chat with us like you have your chat room here. We have the same kind of chat room. You can come on and just type. You don't actually have to appear. But we also have a blue button at the top of our chat room, which if you press it, it will connect you with video and or audio into the live show, and you can take part. We're also, when we finished, like you have a post show, we have a post show, but we stop and then actually carry on off the air. So if you want to come in and just sort of get used to the feel of the way it all works, but without it actually being live on the air, you can join us after the post show as well. So there's plenty of opportunities to sort of test the water, as you said.
That's good. Well, it looks like Ray in the chat room says he's ready to sign up. Now, Ray does something that I don't know if they do this in England or not in the United Kingdom, but in his area they take their tractors and they attach them to this giant sled, and they pull it across the dirt, and they call tractor pulling, and it's very exciting. And Ray just got back from a major tractor pulling event where he was using vMix to actually live stream the event. So, Ray, good work, good work. Do they have tractor pulling
I've been present at one of those
in your area?
Yeah. Well, I used to go along to the Great Dorset Steam Fair. I'm a bit of a steam fan as well, and they started doing tractor pulling one of the years that we were there, and they still do it now. It's amazing some of the machines that people build to pull these sledges, and it's also amazing because you get the old Scammell lorries turn up, and some of the steam traction engines as well will have a go sometimes, and it's really interesting to see just how powerful some of those things are, and at night, it is quite a spectacle with all the fire coming out of the exhaust and stuff like that. So I can imagine Ray's live stream is actually pretty good fun to watch.
Yeah, and they were doing his indoors. Indoors.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. This was definitely outdoors.
That's when your mom says, "Y'all take that outside now." Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So what does the future hold? All right, we got the it wasn't a Lamborghini show. What was it? Land Rover. That's right. Not Lamborghini. It was Land Rovers. Yeah, yeah. So we're going to watch out for that, and we're going to go to stepbackintime.tv and go to the chat room so that we can send you a note and say that we're interested in being on your show. That's cool, and that's Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. in the United Kingdom, and like 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning in Australia. Got it.
Yeah, we were working it out at 6 in the morning in Australia, so
6 in
it's
the morning.
kind of doable. It's quite a good time in some ways, but it won't be quite like you in your pajamas at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, look, you are a champ to come on and be grilled under the spotlight here on Streaming Idiots. I really appreciate you doing that, and I hope we're able to spin up a lot of interest in your show and what you're doing, because I think you guys have a unique offering that I have not seen out there in the live streaming world, and I applaud you for doing that. Thank you very much. That's cool. That's good
Well,
stuff.
thank you, Tom. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for having me on. And
You're welcome. Now,
I'd just
don't
like
go
to thank
anywhere.
everybody who does join in.
Don't go anywhere, because we want you to hold off and be in the post show, because we're going to do post show. We'll do the post show live in just a few minutes. But thanks. Big hand for Giles for coming on the show and for sharing all that stuff with us. And apologize for the fumbles earlier on. That happens to the best of us. If you're watching us live, please stick around, because we're going to have some good post show stuff, and trying to see who came into the. I think Zam Zoom came into the chat room last, so Zam may be responsible for refreshments. But delighted to have you join us for the show today. If you liked it, click the little like button in YouTube, subscribe to us, come on over to our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/streamingidiots and be a part of that. And kind of join in with us the rest of the week. This is an exciting adventure I think we're all on in this live streaming stuff. There's any passion can be a good subject for a live stream. I really believe that, because if you've got a passion for something, somebody else has got a passion for it too, or else they're on the opposite side of the passion and they'd like to argue with you about it, which can also be a lot of fun and interesting too. But I hope it's been meaningful to you. I am Tom Sinclair. This has been Streaming Idiots. We are a production of Eastern Shore Broadcasting. Eastern Shore Broadcasting is my company. We're authorized resellers for vMix and Magewell capture cards and PTZ optics, PTZ cameras, X-Key. I've got my X-Key here. X-Key controllers to allow you to control with a USB controller. And we also design and build custom PCs and are introducing our own line of streaming PCs called Live Streaming Gear, which we hope to have out and available real soon. In fact, some of the pieces of it are already on our website at easternshorebroadcasting.com. So if you're interested in live streaming and you think I can help you with some of those products or consultations, even just some coaching, there's all that information you can find at Eastern Shore Broadcasting. And you can also shoot me an email, Tom at Eastern Shore Broadcasting, or go to easternshorebroadcasting.com and use the contact form there if you prefer. Thanks for watching. If you're watching live, stick around. We're going to go to the post show. But wasn't this fun? Let's do this again next week. And next week we've got a special guest, Stephen Haywood from the Tech Buzz is going to be on the show. Stephen is a Wirecast guy and a TriCaster guy, so sparks are going to fly. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hey, love having you. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next time. And we are out. I'm not sure why it flashed back to me when I hit that button. I'll have to check on that. That's interesting. All right, let me see if I can find Giles. Where did I put Giles? He's around here somewhere. Gotta find Giles. There he is. All right, welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job. Thank you very much. That was great. That was great.
No, pleasure.
You have a beard and overalls for TV. What can I say?
Yep, my trademark.
Yeah. I think if y'all are wondering, I think there's about a second delay between Giles and I. You know, maybe a half a second one way and then a half a second back the other way. It's akin to what you might see on a CNN or Sky News or Fox News broadcast where they have somebody way out in the field that's communicating with them by satellite or by internet. Not too bad, I thought. You know, a second's not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And one of the talents that Giles, that you and I... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's worse, isn't it, than a second, I think. The Zoom, when we use that, I think it has very low latency, and this does seem to just have slightly more. But I think, given more bandwidth, and we have to say here, I'm running on 1 meg of bandwidth, and it's rather limiting in terms of what you can do. And I think it's probably quite responsible for this bit of lag that we're getting, and it keeps doing this thing of catching up, and you talking very, very fast for a second, and then it sorts itself out again.
Oh, have you heard that recently?
Oh, yeah, in the last couple of minutes it's done it. It's not all the time, it's just every now and again it just does a sudden catch-up.
Very interesting, because that's not been my experience on this end. During this entire live show, your audio has been spot on the whole time. It was cool.
Oh, good. It's probably, like I say, it'll be my internet connection. It really is not very good at all. And that's one of our challenges when we stream our show, to try and do 1 meg of bandwidth and sort of 8 or 9 people in the same show is quite entertaining. But it works thanks to the quality of Zoom and vMix together.
That's good. James, we'll see you later. Guest 627 is asking how you are hearing. You've got earbuds in, don't you?
Yeah, I'm running a Bluetooth receiver, which is actually, I don't know, you can probably see it, just clipped to the back of my neck there, into earbuds, and so that I can hear what Tom's saying. And I've shut my microphone off. These earbuds are connected to the headphone bus in vMix, so I've just turned down my microphone because there's a bit of a delay, which is very off-putting, but it means I can hear everything else that's going on without creating a load of feedback to you, hopefully.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah, no feedback at all. In fact, the mix minus that the vMix call feature puts in, not only is a mix minus, but it also avoids ducking, which means that you and I can talk over each other, which is not polite, but it's real life, and sometimes it takes a lot of work in the technology world to make things appear like they were real life. It just doesn't happen by accident. Yeah, let's see what other chat things did we miss. Of course, there was a lot about my gaffe of putting John in Denmark and changing his nationality, but no Nothing intended on that.
Well, we get there's so many people who come in here, and this is a record as far as I'm aware that we've about 60. Yeah, we've got 60 in the chat at the moment. That's very impressive, Tom. You're obviously doing something right.
It's because I got quality guests.
Well, not me anyway. No.
Okay, well let's tell everybody what we're doing.
Yeah,
Let's tell everybody what we're doing. What are you doing on your side? How are you sending me audio and video? What's the deal? And I'm going to go full screen with you in case you want to show us anything.
Okay, well, I'm running vMix 19, the preview release. It's actually version 19.0.0.28, which I think came out today. And the new feature for vMix 19, as everybody knows who's in the chat here, is the vMix call facility, and it has an option to allow you to call vMix to vMix, or you can bring your guest in from just a web browser even, so the other person doesn't really need any software at all. So what we're doing is vMix to vMix at the moment, which enables me to control all my audio. I can put up different images for instead of me, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Well, and as I was showing you guys in the brief, oh, let's see, let's put Giles back up there. What's he got going there?
I'm just playing with you. It's the Tom Sinclair commemorative NDI and audio meter, and it's saved my life a few times. Thank you very much, Martin K, for producing that.
Yeah, Martin K is a sport, I tell you what. He has saved my keister a couple of times. But going back to vMix 19, vMix call feature, you're running vMix on your end, I'm running vMix on my end, and the two vMixes are talking to each other. They're using WebRTC, but they're not going through a browser per se. It's a peer-to-peer connection, which a browser connection would be anyway. But you have the ability to decide what resolution you're going to send me and what bit rate you're going to choose, and I have the ability to decide how much to send you. Now that's distinctly different from the other way of connecting in vMix, which is to give a guest, as I was saying earlier, to give the guest the vmixcall.com web address and a password to connect. They would use Chrome or Firefox to connect. And then Chrome somehow with vMix would negotiate the best bit rate based on available bandwidth and determine what the frame rate, what the resolution was as a result of that. So it could be a resolution that ebbs and flows, whereas in the setup that you and I have, if my resolution is if I'm the guest and you're the host, and all of a sudden my bandwidth takes a dip, the resolution is not going to adjust to that. It's just simply going to drop frames. And so that's interesting the way that works in a kind of a vMix to vMix connection. I'm not sure which I like better, whether I like having the fixed band rate or having it vary out of my control. I'm a real control freak. But I'm also a control freak, and I was surprised earlier when I couldn't set your rate to me. I was like, I want to be able to control Giles's end of it too.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I like to be in control of it, but I think the web browser version may actually have resulted in better picture quality from me to you today had I used that. And I did debate connecting the output of vMix as a virtual webcam into the web browser thing so it could do this negotiation by itself.
Right.
But having not played with it, and obviously I'd need to do all the mix minuses and stuff to go with it then, and that wasn't really the point of today. This was to sort of see how it works the way it was intended to be used.
Sure.
So I stuck with it. But I'm only sending you, what am I? I'm sending you 360p, I think, video, aren't I, at 500k. And the audio rate seems to set itself. So I guess my audio is changing a bit as the internet conditions change.
You are sending me 240 right now. Oh, no. I'm sorry. You're right.
Right. That's
no,
right.
video in is 240.
Oh, no, you're sending me 240. Yeah, you're sending me 240, aren't you?
But I'm seeing 240 coming from
Did
you.
I send you? Oh, yeah, I did actually. Yeah, it's on 240. Do you want me to put it up to 360, see what happens?
Let's be crazy. Let's just be wild.
It's we do experiments live on the air. Yeah. Sorry, I thought I was running at 360. But how's that now? Is it made much difference your end?
Not. It went from 240 to 360, and your frame rate is still 25. That's good.
That's good news.
That's good news. I don't know. The difference between 240 and 360 is not as much as between 360 and 720. That's for sure. It'd be nice if there was an
I could
interim.
try pushing 720 if you just want to see what happens.
Let's try it.
Okay, that'll probably go berserk, but let's do medium 720p at 800k bits. That will kill it.
Yeah, that's not working. Let's see what.
All right, we'll go back to 360 then. I
Yeah,
can see that actually on the feedback to me here.
That dropped the frame rate down to about 3.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that you can't put your own settings in there. You're limited to the predefined ones. I think that could be a feature request. Because I think with a little bit of, if you could just tweak it a little bit, it might be able to make it work. But I can hear your dog, I think.
Yeah, that's Rooney, the NDI dog. I think the postman
Doesn't
is
want
here.
to miss out on the action.
Yeah, let's see.
Your postman was here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He was here and he was very good. Okay, let's see. I want to show folks at home.
Fantastic.
This is the statistics window that I have on Giles's call right now, and you can see the green block represents him, and that's his code. Don't dial in or you'll knock him off the air. And then right below that, it shows the very basic stats: 640 by 360 at 440 kbps, 25 frames a second, 190 milliseconds, and then below that is the audio, 48,000 hertz at 6 kbps, because he's not saying anything right now, and then 150 to 300 millisecond buffer there. Giles, let's keep an eye on that 6 frames per second there, and let you talk, and let's see if that jumps up. If this is, I would assume it sort of is listening for your voice.
Yeah, I'm not monitoring it here. Maybe I should pop the call manager thing up. Yes, it's sort of going between green and orange.
Oh, really, on your end?
But it's saying I'm getting, yeah. So I guess it's just the conditions varying. I'm sure we don't get affected by it this badly when we do a stream, but I guess there's more buffering. But even then, with Zoom, with the latency is very good, and it seems to stay fairly constantly at 360p. So maybe the compression with WebRTC isn't quite as good as the compression in Zoom, but you have got the advantage that I think the picture quality is generally better doing it this way, and as you've pointed out yourself, you're not copying the screen, it's a direct feed in, which is good.
Yeah, and this is This is exactly what I'm getting for Giles. This is unretouched. Let's see, I'm just double checking. No, I haven't cropped this or zoomed this in any way. This is exactly what I'm seeing. And this is 360. You know, that's not bad for 360. Holy cow.
Yeah,
Now,
it doesn't. Well, I'm only seeing it back in 240, of course, but
right.
yeah. Well, I did some experiments on my laptop earlier, though, and it was. I thought it was quite good for 360.
Now,
I reckon
obviously,
it could be quite a good way to bring a phone in.
yeah, 360 is not where we want to live. We'd like to live in 1080 land. So obviously, you know, and you and I weren't able to do 720 because of the bandwidth issue, but had we had unlimited bandwidth, 720p at 2 megs would have been the fastest or the greatest that we could have sent and received between the two of us. I look forward to Martin Sinclair, the proprietor of vMix, to up the ante and go up to 1080. Heck, if he's going to go to 1080, why not go to 4K? You know.
I think if you use the web browser as at the caller's end, I think the caller can send you 1080 video, because I was looking through the Streaming Idiots Facebook group earlier, and somebody has posted a picture on there showing 1080p in the little green box. So I think it is possible, and it may be even possible to do 4K, but it's just you can't send more than 720p back at the moment. But it is only a monitor, so...
Philip is saying in the chat room, 1080 is so old school. We're only accepting 4K now. So I love that. I don't know if he said that tongue-in-cheek or if he's serious, but either way, I love it. That's great. That's great.
Interestingly, YouTube have got a similar attitude, because when we first started TNT, we were broadcasting at 240, and then, I think we started at 360, and I got it up to 480. But now they won't accept 480. 720 is the minimum I seem to be able to stream at. And it's really hard because we've got, 300k of bandwidth for the video. And to do 720 at 300k is really pushing it.
Yes.
We could do 480p, 360p, that was all right. But yeah, it won't accept a 480 or a 360p stream from me for some reason.
I do that every week. That's unusual. I mean, not on this show, but on my church stream, because I've only... Like you at the church, I'm limited to about 800K, and so you know you want to have some overhead as that ebbs and flows. So I use 360 pretty routinely. Now I'm recording at 1080, so I'm going to upload it after the fact, and you know, but anybody watching live will watch 360.
Yeah, I must give it another go, but I've tried on a couple of occasions. The first week, I didn't realise our channel had been blocked, and they were sending error messages saying, expecting 720p resolution. So I changed it, and it still wouldn't work, and we figured out eventually that the channel was blocked from live streaming, and it wasn't telling us that. It was coming up with this other error message. But even so, now, on the other channel that I use... When I tried to do 480 last time, it kept just sort of not connecting and saying expecting 720p. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Maybe it's just the UK ingestion server or something. I don't know. Right. I'll have to give it a go. Maybe somebody in the chat has some idea.
Okay. George Price has got a question. It says, how is your audio from Giles set up on my end, Tom? Actually, George, Giles' audio comes in, you know, when I set up a vMix call input, a video call input, it produced an input in the input section, and it also produced an audio input in the audio section. And so I could adjust his audio just like it was any other audio source. I can mute him, I can turn his volume up and down, I can add gain, I can do a noise gate, I can add compression, I can do all that through vMix, and he's just like any other audio source. It's really pretty cool. Now, so far as what Giles hears everything that's produced in this show, audio-wise, that's in the master, except his own audio. So vMix does an automatic mix minus back to him. Now I have a mix minus in my ear, so I'm essentially have set up the headphone channel to send me to route everything to the speaker port on my PC, and then I've got earbuds plugged into that. So I hear everything except my own audio. So I have set up a mix minus on that, and that's not through my mixer. I'm not doing a mix minus through my mixer. I used to have to do that when I used another piece of software because it had no audio control whatsoever. But it's pretty neat. In fact, I'm beginning to move away from mixers and more towards audio inputs that allow you essentially multiple microphones, each as its own distinct audio input in vMix. I think that's going to be the kind of the wave of the future. George says he cannot hear the audio in his mixer. Yeah, don't listen to your mixer. Don't monitor your mixer. Monitor your PC speaker. I think that's the best way to use vMix, and to let that PC speaker have every bit of audio that vMix has got except your own. Yeah, that's what I think.
I actually route the headphone on my portable system. I have the master bus is set to just enabled, so it doesn't actually go anywhere. But you can pick it up with NDI on another computer if you want to hear it. And I put the headphones bus to my sound card so that you can do the mix minus just like you were describing. And then bus A and bus B I just use according to whether I'm running Zoom or whatever. And Kenny asked in the chat actually what we were using for the button into the show. I see John's replied we're using Zoom, and if you pay for Zoom, you get a fixed meeting ID, which you can actually change, and that's enabled us to put that button there so that you can press it and it just connects you in. Zoom is fantastic actually from that point of view, and I think we will.
Oh, we lost him. He just dropped right out. Just boom. So maybe we'll get him back. While we wait for Giles to come back, I wanted to let you, this is the audio mixer section of vMix, and I've just got it sitting out on a separate monitor where I can see it. And you can see this is the audio for the theme song. And I just let that run all the time, and then I bring it in when I need it. And then these two are for the show opening and closing, and we'll just minimize those for a second. And we'll minimize that one, and we'll minimize that one. So the only ones that are really open, we'll minimize that one, are what I call audio mains. This is anything that comes through my mixer is coming over this channel right now. And then this is Giles's audio right there, and we'll leave it up. That way we'll know when he gets back. But here on each one of these audio inputs is a gear icon that is the settings button. So we'll open settings, and let me bring that back in so you guys can see it. And this is for the audio settings for the audio mains. Now audio mains is a title that I gave it, and you can see the pre and post fade audio levels there. But down below that is a headphone icon with a speaker, with a volume control. And I don't know if you can see down there, but it says 0 is the volume control, is the decibel level right there, because I've got the headphones for audio settings for the audio main, which is me. I've got that set to 0, so I'm sending my headphones 0 audio. But we'll look at Giles's here for a second, and we'll see that his is set to 100%. So I can hear all of his audio in my headphones if he had any. And we can look at, let's see where it was, Fresh and Fun. We'll go and look at that one and see that that one's got full audio there. And all the rest of them, in fact, every other one on there would have that headphones turned all the way up, except the one for audio main. So I've kind of created my own little mix minus in vMix so that I don't get an echo in my ear. Or, in fact, it probably wouldn't be an echo. It would just be a delayed audio. Looks like we've got Giles back. Giles, are you back? We got video, but we don't have audio. A little while ago when we did this, yeah, his audio is running at about 3 times speed, and it'll come to us in just a minute. This is an anomaly, and we'll see if this is probably a bug. This is, and I think let me double check. I think I've got everything turned up on him. I'm going to open Call Manager, and I'll put Call Manager where you can see it. And you can see under audio in that we're getting 0K BPS. And right up here you can see we're getting the video coming in at 640 by 360, 500K, 25 frames a second, about 150 to 180 millisecond delay. But audio, we're getting 0 audio K BPS. It's got still has a buffer, but it doesn't have the reality of audio on that stream. So, Giles, can you hear me normally? No, he can't. In fact, it looks like, well, yeah, he was frozen there for just a second. Oh, it looks like we're going to have audio
a reconnect.
now. There we go. There we go. We got you now.
Yeah. I did a reconnect. It was... well, you sounded like a chipmunk just now. It was really going very fast, and then it suddenly settled, but you didn't appear to be getting any audio from me, so I just right-clicked on the input and did reconnect. So it's very easy to recover, and I do apologise. That was my phone line going down again. I think we've got a fault on the line.
Not a problem. It's a good way to experiment and see how vMix handles these situations. John wants to know if we can show how you can adjust the monitor volume on a single input. Yeah, I think we just did that. Kenny says, how do you deal with any audio latency coming from your guest or going back to your guest to keep all the audio synced? Well, Giles's audio video is in sync with himself, and my audio video is in sync with myself. There's just that latency, that delay between the time I say it and the time he hears it, and then the time he says it and the time it gets back here. So that's going to be inherent in probably anything. I'm sure vMix will be working to reduce that latency but I was trying it here in the studio last night, and with a call to myself, and of course, what's the how far does it have to go? It goes to the nearest internet tower and back or whatever, and the latency was virtually none. I can't tell if Giles is still moving. Is he alive? Yes, there he is. Okay, he's moving.
I'm reading the chat, yeah.
He was studying. All right. Very good.
Interestingly, what you were saying, I did the same test earlier between the laptop and my main machine, and you get sort of near NDI latency over a gigabit network. And I should think with a fairly modern, fast phone, if you were to connect using the web browser function, it might be an alternative to using the NDI camera. You might get more frames per second because it's got that bit of compression. I need to play with it a bit more, but I did try it on my tablet earlier, and it looked okay. Have you played around with that, Tom? I know you were messing around with the app on your phone.
I have played with the NDI app, and Paul, by the way, great. Thanks for showing up. And I've also played with the vMix call on my phone, and I think part of it is that my phone is connecting through the Wi-Fi here in the building, and the Wi-Fi access point is on the other side of the building, which means that I just don't get very good connection here. And one of these days, I'm just going to have to get closer to the access point or drop an access point on this side of the building, so that I can see really. It's one of those things, I don't really need to do it. It's kind of nice to show it off, but until I need to do it, I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time trying to fix it and get it working. That's just me.
I might just see if I can do it here. I'll give it a go while you're talking. I'll set up another video call input and bring my phone in and see what we can get it to do.
Yeah, everybody is reporting that it is frozen. Well, maybe not. Maybe
Well,
we're
you're
back.
still coming through here, okay?
Yeah, YouTube says it's not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. But vMix says that we're still red. So
I think vMix is going to have to do some colour coordination, aren't they? Because the buttons in different places change to different colours. Because you really want green when the stream's okay, rather than red, don't you? But in the call here, it's showing green when it's all okay, and it goes red when it's bad.
Yeah. You know, that's always been a problem. Because I know vMix has not necessarily wanted to follow TV standards, because red was always the sign that you were active, you were live. And I think they wanted to have green for go. Green makes more sense. And so that's why they're choosing green as sort of their go color. And I wish of course the industry's not going to change. It's too much there. Rod is asking to see your studio and your lights. Is that something you can show, or maybe Rod, if he can't show it right now, he can show it on one of his shows for sure.
What I can do is get my NDI cam up, because the vMix website's taking too long to load at the moment. So I think somewhere here I've got. It's just whether it comes up. This is the thing. Sometimes I have to reset my Wi-Fi box to get it to come alive.
Yeah.
If you just give me a minute, I'll go and reset that. It'll.
I can fill that time.
I don't think
problem.
it's going to connect.
All right, guest 934.
Cool.
I'm glad the headphone trick worked for you. I just learned it a couple of weeks ago, so I'm happy to pass it along. I don't have any rights to that at all. The wife needs to leave, so we will miss her. Thank you for showing up when you did. We love having a lady on board. Let's see what else. Ray used his NDI phone last week, and it was okay. I understand. Martin, the weather is glorious here today. It's in the 70s Fahrenheit and very clear, very beautiful. Let's see. Let me turn off in the chat, apparently there's a settings button, a little gear icon, where you can turn off the scroll to latest message. So if you want to go back and read something without it popping all over the place, you can do that. But then you have to remember to turn it back on, or else it won't keep up with the latest. Let's see. Guest 21 Tom just loaded vMix 19 and his Logitech C920. His Logitech C920 can only be loaded with 640 by 480 and 30p. Any thoughts? Should be able to get 1080 out of that rascal. I know I've got a Logitech. Well, yeah. I mean, you should be able to get 1080. I know I've got a Logitech 610 that I can only get 720 out of. So you may have to continue to tinker around with the settings there. And I don't have my Logitech plugged in right now, or I'd look. Oh, Giles is showing us the studio. Let's see if we can't go full screen on that. Giles, are you there?
Let's leave that audio rather than this audio.
There's
you hear
audio.
Me? I'm sort of standing back from the mic a bit. Okay, so you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good, okay. So this is my, this is the TNT production setup. So I'm using the flow lights, the compact fluorescent bulbs in a sort of softbox type arrangement. And behind me I've got some other lights which are shining up onto the ceiling and reflecting down onto the green screen behind me. I found that was a fairly good way to do it. This setup is far from ideal. This is not. Don't copy the lighting setup because it's all wrong really, but it works for as a temporary setup. So what we've got around here, just a quick studio guide. That's the vMix PC, the dark box there, and on top of it I've got an old netbook which we use to monitor the Step Back in Time chat room, which is what's on there at the moment. I'm running a 4-monitor setup, so my main monitor down here is showing at the moment. It's actually showing what Tom is sending me, but I would normally use it for Zoom or as a sort of confidence monitor for the live broadcast, so it would normally have the output on it. The monitor to the right has got the standard vMix multi-view, and I use this because I'm using an APC Mini as my controller. The X keys is another perfect controller for this job. In fact, the X keys is a lot easier to configure because you can actually label the keys properly. So I've labelled these with just Dymo labels, so you can see how that works. So having the preview and program buttons organised in the kind of traditional way works very well with the multi-view. So that's on my sort of display too. Down here I've got an old tablet which I use for drawing graphics live in the shows, but today I'm using it for Tom's chat. And up here we've got vMix. And I'm running vMix on these monitors up here because they're not 16:9 monitors, but vMix doesn't mind that. And I got the vMix mixer and all the other bits going on the other monitor there. And then to my right I have another laptop which I usually use just to deal with Facebook and that kind of thing when we're in the live show. Tonight I'm actually using it to monitor the telephone line because it's so up and down. And finally I'm using a Zoom R16, which is actually a multi-channel recording thing like you would use in a recording studio. It's kind of a mini recording studio, but you can use it as a control surface. And an 8-channel audio input to vMix, and it has ASIO drivers, so each channel comes in as a separate channel into vMix. So these faders you can actually use in vMix. It recognises them, and you can use the buttons and turn the LEDs on and off as well. But I'm using the APC Mini primarily, but I've used all the faders now on the APC Mini. That's one thing I do like about the APC Mini, is that you have these faders. So I shall be graduating onto the faders over there. Anyway, that's a sort of a rough guide. I hope that answers any questions.
Outstanding. Very nice. Plus, we got to see the was that NDI or the NDI phone?
That was actually NDI.
Yeah,
that was NDI. It was only in standard definition, so that was actually fairly smooth. What would be nice would be to actually do what I started out to do, which I will now go back and do, and try and use the vMix call feature. Let's see if we can get connected. It'll take a little while to connect because all my bandwidth's in use, but once it's connected, it should use the local network here rather than trying to send the video out onto the internet. It is a peer-to-peer system, so it should give us a direct connection into vMix when it gets going.
So Giles could as easily allow me to connect his phone to me here if he had enough internet bandwidth, but since he's using his local area network, he can connect locally. At least that's the hope. Let's see, a couple questions in the chat room. Curtis says he's tried the NDI cam on his phone and it was okay, and in a pinch it would work, and I agree with that too. It really depends on, it's the old your mileage may vary. JP says when he mentions adding additional calls, can you explain what versions take how many calls? Yes, the current proposal, and I say current, but there's no reason to think it's going to change, is that vMix HD will allow one caller, vMix 4K will allow two callers, and vMix Pro will allow eight callers. And from what I can tell, the thinking is that vMix Pro does 4 channels of instant replay, vMix 4K does 1 channel or a fourth of that, and so maybe that's how they came up with the numbers, that vMix Pro does 8 callers, and therefore vMix 4K would do a quarter of that, so that's 2, and then vMix HD gets 1. And there are quite a few features that are high-end features that are only available in 4K or only available in Pro, and so vMix has kind of added this new feature. And if you happen to have one of those versions, then you're going to get this feature as when you upgrade. The upgrade, for those of you that purchased your license within the last year, the upgrade is free. For those of you that are outside of that year window, the upgrade is, are you seated? Oh, God, I almost hate to say it. The upgrade is only $60. So if you've experienced other software in the past that has had a greater upgrade fee, then welcome to vMix, because it's only $60 to upgrade, regardless of what level, whether you've got the $1,200 package or the $150 package. Of course, if you're going to spend $60 to upgrade your $150 package, you may as well go all the way up to HD for an additional, was that $140? I would think that would make a good investment. Alan says you can monitor zero latency with the headphone jack on your UMC 404 HD and can feed the audio from the vMix bus back into the headphones as well via USB. Alan, I was actually happened to be playing with that yesterday and found that when I started using the mics on the UMC 404 HD, that it disabled the return feed of USB from the PC to the audio interface. So that's interesting. I'll have another go at it. And I could, when I wasn't using microphones, it did have audio, but as soon as I turned those mics on, I was having problems. But maybe there's something I need to do to mix that on the board. Let's see. Kenny says, sorry to bother about this, but want to clarify. Tom, so does the vMix call website only authenticate the connection, or is it a pass-through of the actual stream? The vMix call website would be on the guest end, and so the guest would have to have that website up and running in order to see the return video, and the website would have to be up and running for the host to see the guest's video. Whether or not it is only authenticating the connection, it's certainly displaying the audio and passing through the video, and it's sending the audio and video. So I think it's necessary. I mean, I don't think you can set up a connection and then exit from that page. Let's see. George has got a suggestion on a range extender. I'll have to come back and look at that. Boris was saying, this is interesting, on yesterday morning's show, someone tried to log in using the password that the guest was using, and it kicked them off. And that is indeed true. I did it to myself just testing yesterday, and I asked, fortunately I was asked by vMix to do some testing with them for the last couple of weeks on this. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you guys about it, but I was sworn to secrecy. I mean, they were going to cut me off from all future goodies if I said a word. So I did notice that before and asked about that, and Martin's reply was that it was a way for a guest, if they got disconnected, to be able to connect back. But it's certainly something that you want to look out for. That you don't want somebody, if you're showing off, as Giles and I both have, showing off our call manager, you could pick up those codes and be in trouble. Yeah, Martinez says it was Rod that called in. Let's see. Giles, you want to jump in there while I look for more questions?
I'm just waiting for the phone to download the WebRTC client. I don't know if you can see, but I'm at this stage at the moment, so it's just getting going. It's not actually called into my system yet because it's just so little bandwidth free. But the theory is once it's connected, once it's authenticated with the server, it should just talk direct within here because it is peer-to-peer. But as you were saying earlier, if you've got two people behind firewalls, they will actually handle the traffic through the server to avoid the problems. So we'll just have to wait for this thing to come up. I'll just keep it here, and when it does, hopefully we'll be able to see if that's effective.
Okay. Well, Tom was saying, guest 211 Tom is saying that his Logitech C920 worked great with vMix 18 at 1080, but vMix 19, the best he could get out of it was standard definition. Tom, if that's the case, that sounds like a bug. Sounds like a bug, and I would certainly report that. And I'm going to check that with my Logitech C920 once we get off of this show. Martin wants to know, Giles, did you see him standing behind you?
No, Martin. Yeah, that was a blowback to a couple of weeks ago. We play tricks on people. Well, Martin does specifically, as many of your viewers will know. I'm just loading vMix on my other computer here because I'm sure my C920 on here was working fine. I'm just going to add it now. Camera, C920, default, 1920 by 1080, PAL 25, so it's all on the defaults. Ping, yep, that's come up no problem at all. And that's on vMix 19.0.0.28, the 64-bit version. So that seems okay here. Maybe it's a driver issue. Maybe something got broken during an upgrade or something.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, that's good. And it's interesting if different people have different responses. You know, there's got to be a reason for it. That's for sure. Let's see. Jens, you know, don't take what I said about the 404 HD as gospel. I need to go back and check again. I got interrupted in my test before, and so, you know, that was just a kind of a halfway experience. Guest 624, have we found any bugs in vMix 19 yet? It's a beta. There's always a bug. You know, and the thing with betas, and that's why companies like vMix release betas, is so that they can only test but so much in their studio. And even in testing, you know, people like me setting up a call between Australia and the U.S., you know, I've got my setup, they've got their setup, but we found out just yesterday, in fact, probably within an hour or two of the release of vMix 19.0.0.26, I think, or maybe 2.7, that there was a bug that affected some instances of PCs that use the Intel 5000, the Intel HD 5000 video, and it gave a snowy screen and it flashed off and on. And vMix found that one and got it fixed within the hour. And so now we're up to .28. And my guess is, I noticed in the forum a little while ago that they'd identified and fixed another bug. They hadn't released a new version yet, so my guess is that they had some other things they wanted to kind of get ironed out. And, you know, there's no better way to test something than to throw it out into the wild where people are using every possible configuration. And we'll find out, as, you know, guest 211 Tom said just a few minutes ago, that he was having an anomaly between vMix 18 and vMix 19 regarding his Logitech C920 camera. So that's the kind of stuff that betas are used to identify. And sometimes with betas, too, there'll be times where a product like vMix 19 in beta will have new features added while it's still in beta. That is, these are features that they had planned, but they wanted to go ahead and get the beta out there so that people could be testing, you know, feature number 1 while they added feature number 2. From what I gather in talking with the vMix guys, that this vMix call is going to be the big feature in vMix 19, maybe even to the point where there won't be any other really notable features. There may be some improvements. Things may be tweaked here and there, but this may be the big feature. If that's the case, this is a darn good biggest feature. I mean, this is worth being a feature standing out on its own because this is a game changer. There are going to be thousands, if not tens of thousands of people all over the world that will be able to do talk shows now and bring in a guest or multiple guests that couldn't do it before because frankly, the complexity of handling the audio portion of this was just too much. You know, the whole thing with virtual audio cables and mix minus and audio being routed from here to there and from a speaker on this device to a mic on this device. You know, it was too much for so many people. And so they would simply just, you know, they either wouldn't do it or they do it through Zoom or Google Hangouts or some other feature that allowed where that feature handled all this. Well, vMix has now integrated that into vMix, and it's going to make life so much easier. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine. That's me. Sorry.
It's certainly going to be a lot easier to bring a single guest in, isn't it? I think doing multiple guests, if you've got 8, well, you're going to need a lot of bandwidth. But if let's say you've got the bandwidth, you're going to have 8 inputs to juggle with and stuff. But it's I think it's great. I think it'd be good in this sort of situation where you've got somebody who's sort of talking for quite a while and then you switch to somebody else and there's not too much switching to do. But otherwise, Zoom's quite nice because it will automatically switch. But, of course, you've got your automatic camera switcher product, which you could apply to the call feature to make it switch from one to the other automatically.
Well, the other thing that I was thinking about, Giles, and you know, somebody was asking me the other day, you know, why 8? You know, how could you ever possibly deal with 8 guests at the same time? And in the vMix Funtime Live show Tuesday morning, well, you know, you were on the call. I think there were 5 guests and the host. You know, how do you deal with that? Well, I think you don't. I think you might have a show where you're going to bring 2 guests on in the first segment, and then you're going to bring 2 other guests on in the second segment, and then in the third segment you're going to bring 3 guests on. But you need to have all those guests in and logged in and ready to go at the same time. So even though you can take 8 callers, it doesn't mean you're going to actively be displaying 8 callers all at the same time. And I think as a result, I'm hoping that vMix will be able to generate some sort of green room, virtual green room, where the guests that are not part of the show can hang out and talk with each other, or at least monitor the feed and have an operator come in and talk with them and say, okay, you know, Giles and Martin, you guys are up next, you know, get ready. The other thing I hope they'll add is a tally light so that the guest knows when they are live.
That would be nice.
Yeah, one of the advantages of being a tester on this is I was able to send back what I thought all the bugs were, but I could also send them a long list of features that I think they need to add at some point. Some of which have already been added, but some of which I've yet to see. So we'll see. Yeah, Dan is saying from PI Engineering, with 8 callers on your screen, it'll look like the opening of the Brady Bunch. That would be 8 callers plus the host is 9. Brady Bunch or Hollywood Squares, Dan?
Dan, have you ever watched TNT?
Yeah.
As Martin says, it's a bit of a free-for-all. I don't think we've exceeded 9 people connected together, and it was only 8 video feeds, but that can happen. It depends on the format of your show. I completely agree with Tom, though, from what you're saying. If you're running a traditional format show, yeah, you're going to bring in 1 or 2 guests at a time, aren't you? And I think there's didn't Martin Sinclair say there's an option to use the solo buttons and things so you can talk to the guests off air? We've done that with Zoom as well. I have a button here I can press, and I can talk to them without it going out.
Right. But it needs to be easy,
so you
peasy,
can kind of
falling off a ladder easy. You know, that's the thing. It can't be.
Yes, it
can't
does.
be difficult. It's got to be easy.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with this feature, isn't it? I think also possibly we don't have to expect too much of it in some ways because it has been designed to be really simple. And I mean, it is so easy just to add somebody and bring them in. Or at least it was when I brought Martin in on my laptop the other day. But when we were trying to bring John in and Martin Kay, it wouldn't work for some reason. So I've not got to the bottom of that yet. I don't know why that was, but we shall keep experimenting.
All right, and guest 211 Tom says that he thinks he's fixed his Logitech problem. All right. The chat in vMix call is for all callers, so everybody can be on the chat, and it's part of the call manager screen. The only complaint I had about that is the type was too small. It needs to be bigger. But that's just me. That's my complaint about most things
right
these
to
days.
big print. Well, my eyesight's on its way out, so I'm glad you got big print in your chat room as well.
Well, Control Plus will take care of that. Yeah. Let's see. Rafael says, did anyone try to use vMix call for talkback with the rest of the crew? I don't understand. Does that make sense to you, Giles? What do you think?
I suppose you could, through a phone, just use it for the audio, because you can choose not to send any video out to your guest. So yeah, I guess you could use it for that.
I see.
So they can hear you.
A text.
Yeah, I guess they can
intercom.
talk to each other.
Oh,
Yeah.
as an
well,
intercom
yeah, there's
system.
a speech intercom. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I could see that working. Another way to do it is to just use Skype audio and just connect everybody together on a Skype call. Because again, that's peer-to-peer. Once it's established the call, it will stay local. Just as long as your Wi-Fi is up to... That's the problem if you're at an event and a load of people turn up with their phones and it starts swamping all the Wi-Fi, it could blow up in your face. But it could potentially work. But then we've got the alt tally system by Jens for vMix that has a TTY system on it for communicating with your camera operators and so on. That is a fantastic piece of software, and it tells them whether their mic's on or not, whether they're on screen or not. It's an absolutely brilliant thing. So I'd highly recommend you look at that if you're looking for a tally system or a sort of crew intercom system as well. So it's certainly in a noisy environment. Typing is going to be clearer than trying to listen to audio, isn't it?
Right.
So we should keep a close eye on that one. I think it's going to be, well, it already is, a superb thing.
Well, it's got some of the competition upset, that's for sure. There were some interesting conversations in some of the Facebook groups yesterday where people were talking about this feature, and other people were sort of poo-pooing it before they'd either seen it or tried it. So if that's the case, you know they're afraid of it. That was pretty funny.
New glasses would be too easy, Boris, but yeah, you're right.
Okay, what else?
Yeah, I think it works really well. If you just want something simple, you don't have to mess around with the mix minuses. It's all done for you. That's great. And you can still do an external communication system if you want to, or run them side by side even. So I think it's fairly flexible. I'm sure as it progresses, I mean, vMix has grown to add all sorts of extra bits and pieces like the buses and that type of thing over time, and I'm sure people will put in feature requests for specific functionality with this call feature, and it'll grow. But this is just the beginning, isn't it, Tom, really?
You know, it's funny. vMix is the best thing that I've ever seen in terms of live video production in a software. And in some ways, it's only beginning to scratch the surface. Isn't that funny? Wow. Wow. I like what
And
Martin
yet it's so
Stuckey's.
capable already.
Yeah, yeah. I like what Martin Stuckey's saying. Said this can work also bringing in external commentators for sporting events. What a great idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got a curling expert who's stuck over in Kansas City and you can bring him in as a color commentator on your show there in where are you, Martin? Are you in Sweden? And sure, why not? I mean, yes, there's going to be you know, 1,000 millisecond delay, but you can figure out how to work around that. I mean, Giles and I are, you know, whether we know it or not, we're trying to figure out how to work around that with each other right now. And you know, I keep trailing my sentences on, waiting for him to join in, knowing that it takes about a second for him to hear, and he can join in as I'm sort of trailing off.
John makes a good point actually in the chat as well. Going back to the intercoms, TeamSpeak, that's what he uses. That works very well, apparently. Yeah, it's an alternative. There's lots of ways around doing these things. This is something we like to do on TNT, is to try and avoid buying the really expensive professional stuff unless you really have to. You can DIY quite a lot, and Carl was on only a couple of weeks ago with his homemade what do you call it, teleprompter, and that's a good example. And he's built camera cranes and all sorts of things. It's amazing what you can make if you've got time in your hands, and it's just a case of thinking, well, if you're familiar with a product that will allow you to talk to each other, then that's great, isn't it? Because you've got an intercom system. And particularly, what I do like about John's system is that he uses the tally light system on the phones, and you can have TeamSpeak running in the background. So the phone is then doing more than one job. You're using it for your crew communications and your tally light system. So it's a dual purpose function.
Interesting. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying to pick what to talk about. As somebody said, Rafael tried on Android phone, Chrome, didn't send the picture from vMix audio only. Then he launched second Chrome page, left vMix call page in the background, and it still worked. So he launched the web tally. Interesting. You guys are really pushing the envelope here. Anyone keeping up with AMD's new CPU? Not me.
No, I tend to stick to Intel for vMix. I'm not saying AMD wouldn't work, but if you're spending money, particularly on a laptop or something like that, you just want to know it's going to work, don't you?
Yeah, and Martin Stuckey says that both the commentator and the analyzer can stay at the other end of the world. And Martin, the way you do curling, showing multiple camera angles, well, were you showing multiple camera angles, or was this at a video I saw of one of the curling presentations? I think that was here in the U.S., where they had the multiple, you know, if you could send multiple camera angles so that the commentators could be commentating on more than just what's being seen in a sort of a main screen. I don't know. I have to think that one through a little bit more. Oh, goodness.
I think you could do it. Combination of technologies, I'm sure it could be done. What I'd like to see is something in NDI that allows you to send compressed video perhaps with a bit more latency, but just so that you can use phones and tablets on Wi-Fi for the NDI monitor and stuff like that, because that would be really useful. But I guess the call feature in vMix is kind of almost that, isn't it? And it's just sort of, you know, if you've got sort of 8 caller inputs available, I guess you could use them just to give people a monitor feed on a wireless device or laptop or anything really. If you're not using them to bring callers in, then it's another way of giving people a feed to look at, and they could be anywhere then, can't they? They can literally be on the other side of the world because it's a compressed video format.
Yep.
And you can get the audio feedback from them the same way.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, it's got lots of potential. There's going to be lots of new ideas that people come up with, interesting ways to use it beyond it just being a guest facility, I think.
Yep. Giles, Kenny H wants to know what was the small audio app you were using and that showed good audio, etc. A few minutes ago. It was not in vMix. It was an app that Martin K had written. Can you show that again? I'll put you full screen. Is that handy?
Yeah, I can do that again for you. Yeah, if we switch to input number 6. This is the Tom Sinclair commemorative NDI no audio meter application, and basically, if you stop speaking and everything goes quiet, I don't know if we can do this, but I'll shut my audio off for a second. You'll see what happens, and it beeps at you when it goes red like that as well, and. It's really good. It's saved my life a few times, and in fact, the one time I wasn't running it, when I was actually talking to Martin K, that was embarrassing.
Oh, I remember that.
I did actually forget to turn my audio up.
That was last week's show. That was great.
So, yeah, that's right. So it happens to the best of us. Unfortunately, it's very easy to forget you've turned your audio off, and this simple app that makes use of NDI. You don't even have to run it on the same computer that you're running your vMix on. It can be running on a separate machine somewhere else, and it just gives you a beep, a reminder. Oh, put the audio on, and it's a fantastic app. Thank you very much, Martin K.
And the one time you didn't use it is the time you needed it.
Yeah, sod's law, isn't it?
That sounds like something I'd do. I love it. Giles, you have arrived. you have now reached my
you've
level.
arrived when you forget to put your audio on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh my goodness.
John makes extensive use of it as well, because again, if you're working with a team, it's very easy for somebody on the team not to put the audio on when they're supposed to, and I think John has found that to be very useful. It saved him a few times from broadcasting nothing, or just dead air.
Let me give a quick shout out to folks that have joined us. I've neglected you earlier, my apologies, but to Guido and to Tom Griffith. Let's see, Larry's here, Texas Mike is here, JP we've already recognized, Alex Free, welcome. Alex Matthew is here. Glad to have you, Matthew. Rod is here. And Harry is here. Hey, Harry. Welcome. Thanks for joining the Facebook group. And Jerome is here. Guest 627. GMO. Blaze came in a little while ago. Glad to have you. 934. Andrew S. from Australia. So glad to have you guys with us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see. Dave says we think you should call it Tom's Law. That, it's kind of like the Peter Principle. Giles, are you familiar with the Peter Principle? Is that something that has been in your radar ever?
No, but yeah, I'm sure you will explain. I do agree, though. Tom's Law, that's fantastic.
The Peter Principle says, in essence, that people rise to their either highest or lowest level of incompetency. That is, they get promoted until they can't do the job anymore. Then they don't get promoted anymore, but they don't drop back either. They just stay at this level where they're incompetent. And so that's Tom's Law, that you get so good that you get bad. I love it. Thank you, Dave.
And then
that
they
was funny.
Promote you out of trouble.
Yeah, that's right. Then they give you a lateral promotion where you can't do as much damage. Oh, that's goodness. Goodness. Well, yeah, you guys download
That's
Martin's app.
interesting. Yeah, highly recommend Martin's app. He's got lots of other good stuff on his website as well. It's definitely worth a good look. John's saying in the chat here that he's been testing the vMix call with different browsers, and he reckons it actually works better with Firefox than Chrome, which is interesting. Mine's just died here. It's just the connection is so slow that it's just not loaded. So, but I'll give that a go though, John. It might be worth me sticking Firefox on there.
I tried it with Chrome earlier, and it seemed to work fine, except I couldn't turn off the camera, and I couldn't adjust the size of the of the sender's video. I don't know, my fingers just didn't, for some reason, couldn't grab a hold of that little window and drag it and make it smaller. I'm sure there's something that my grandchildren can teach me on how to do that. But I'll try Firefox. That's a good idea.
Yeah, Boris is just saying if the vMix call passwords are in the sort of US phone number type format, 3x3x4. That's interesting.
That's right.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. I love technology. I love old technology as well, but I do really love this. The sort of, we're on the cutting edge here, aren't we? Really, with vMix, and this is good fun to play with. Good fun to work with.
We are. And if I was a fanboy of a competitive software, I'd feel really left out right about now.
Yes, other systems are available, as they would say on the BBC.
Yeah. I was like, damn, I wish we had that. Golly. Oh, man. Look at all that fun they're having, and we don't get to have that fun. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, there goes the low audio meter with the dead air. Yeah.
Oh, does it pick up my audio as well?
Yeah, I've got it monitoring the output of my my vMix here. I don't know if you'll be able to see on... Oh yeah, I think the text's reasonably visible, isn't it, on here? But you can choose... over to the right here, you can choose which NDI line it monitors, so I can edit box is the machine I'm actually on, and I've got quite a few audio lines on this one, but you can see it gives you the choices of the vMix output or the externals or whatever. So it also gives you the option just to monitor the audio channel, so you don't have to have the video with it, which saves a bit of CPU. So I could monitor the headphones or the output or one of my A or B buses, and it would just tell me which one's which. I've just accidentally unclicked it, so I will now put it back on the master. There we go. So, and you can change that on the fly. So it really is a useful app, and the nice thing about it is, because you don't actually have to run it on the same machine as vMix, you can use it to monitor another computer. So in Tom's case, for example, he streams from the laptop and has his separate production PC. He could actually run this on the production PC to monitor the laptop to make sure that there's something going out on the live stream, and it would be there in front of him. And this is the lovely thing about NDI, is it just means you can put things where they're most convenient for you, and the network takes care of the connection. So I'm really a big NDI fan, and that's something that's really excellent to have come out of new tech.
Go back to that screen again, and let's have some dead air. I want to see if I can make that thing start back up again. Okay, so I'm talking. Does it make any difference? Check. Oh, look at there. It works. Wow. That is too cool. Thank you, Giles. I love it.
Even from the other side of the world.
Even from the other side of the world. Martin K., you're a genius. Uh-oh, John is causing trouble down there. He said, as he posted in the vMix forum, I would certainly feel a little sad if I had spent $3,995 US for a new tech talk show VS100. and then found that vMix had come out with the same thing. Ooh, for much less.
That would sting. That would
Good
sting.
post, John. Indeed. Dave, Martin is not.
I wish I could send you the beeps of this.
Martin has gone. I think he's already left the chat. I could be wrong. Sometimes people are monitoring the chat, but they don't show up on the list. So, Martin, in case you are listening and not reading the chat, Dave Edwards says, and I quote, "Martin Kay is a freaking genius and very zen," unquote. Very good, Dave. Very good. Alex Free said, if you want to switch on one computer using vMix and stream and record on another, could you use the basic HD for the streaming computer? Alex Free, you are spot on, brother. You have got it. That is exactly correct. Now, you can't use the same license on two different PCs at the same time. But you can have it installed on two different PCs, just so long as they're not used simultaneously. So in my situation here, I would have whatever I have, in this case, vMix 4K, and then on the laptop sitting off to the side, I would have vMix Basic HD, because I only need a video channel and an audio channel. Or in fact, coming over NDI, it combines it as one. Now, in my case, I've got 12 different inputs, because I have lots of things. If for some reason this feed fouls up, I want to have something over there where I can play some music and show a sign, and I have a ticker going across that shows up only on that one. But you're absolutely right. You could do a two PC setup with any vMix HD, 4K, Pro, and then vMix Basic HD as kind of your streamer recorder. And you could stream and record HD for sure. And in fact, today we're recording 1080 and we're streaming 720 to Facebook and to YouTube. So you are spot on. Whew. This is good stuff. This is good stuff.
Yeah, some good zen going on here in the chat room. This is the great thing, is we get a bunch of people together and start chatting about various ideas, and one idea sparks off another, and that's what I like. This sharing and collaboration, if I could make my maths work, of ideas is something. I'm not going to say it's unique to the vMix community, but it's certainly very strong in the vMix community, and it's we all move forward together, don't we? It's that sort of open source idea of sharing.
It's the beauty of open source with
thoughts.
The ability to have somebody full-time paid to do it for you. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other night. I love that. Good comment, Kenny. Mike Lotta says he was watching a Wirecast training webcast last week, and they were taking us on a tour of their studio and showed us the VS100 that they had to bring in calls for their Wirecast training seminars if you were not in the studio. Yeah, they dropped some bucks on that. And 627 says, so are you saying I can run the $60 version and play with vMix Call and vMix 19? For 60 days. You can use the free trial for 60 days, which is the Pro version. And if you have vMix 19 installed, it would indeed be the vMix Call with 8 callers. And if you had the $60 version, well, you wouldn't even need the $60 version. You could do it all on the free trial. Now, the $60 version, the vMix Basic HD, does not have the vMix Call feature in it in a regular license, in any license. The vMix SD, vMix Basic HD, and vMix Basic SD, which is the free one, none of those have the vMix Call feature. So if you have those licenses, you will not have the vMix Call feature available to you. You're going to have to upgrade to at least vMix HD as the lowest one call, vMix 4K for 2 callers, and vMix Pro for 8 callers. Did I get that right? Yeah. There we go. Yep, yep. Yeah, there we go. Everybody
Getting a
got
bit of
that straight.
buffering, apparently.
Yeah, it must be your bandwidth.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sucking yours as well, aren't
That's
I?
right.
The bandwidth, that is.
That's right. That's right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh dear. It's,
I think Wirecast has
no,
gotten
well,
in
I
and
think
clipped some of my cords.
yeah, new tech are in there. They must be draining my phone line. That's the problem, I think. Actually, is that our phone line's got some water in it. I guess we've had some really horrible weather just this last few days, and it always kills it. It's the damp string they use is only any good when it's dry.
Andrew S. says that Livestream Studio has implemented a WebRTC guest system. Good for them. Good for them.
That's good.
Yep. Yep.
Be interested to see that.
Yep.
It's always interesting to see how other people implement it.
Yeah. Yeah. It will be. That's good. Steve's here. Hey, Steve. Glad to have you. We're just about to fold tents. Giles, I have got to go back to work here, but thank you so much. It must be like 1 a.m. for you, but thank you so much for hanging out and joining the show today.
Yeah, no problem at all. Well, like I said earlier, it was both an honour and a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you. And it's just gone 10:15 here in the UK. So
Oh, that's not
feels
too
very
bad.
much like TNT. This is kind of normal.
Well, probably a lot of the same audience. Yeah. Yeah.
There are some names there definitely I recognise. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Giles, thank you. Everybody, thank you. I'm going to put on some theme music and let it kind of roll out, because if you had buffering, that means you may be a couple minutes behind. And what you know is if your viewers are buffering, if you cut your feed, it will cut to them immediately in most cases. So always make sure that you let it run on out for another minute or two with just some basic nonsense or some way to say goodbye and good night. But Giles, you're a champ. Thank you very much. Folks, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week when we host Stephen Haywood from the Tech Buzz and watch the sparks fly.